My 29-year-old girlfriend of 6 months stated that she only dates one person at a time. Now that I'm 28 years old, I discover she had a friend who benefited till we watched it together because I'm on the dummy scale of sexuality. So I only date one person at a time. And if we had chemistry, I asked for exclusivity on the third and fourth dates. But when I met my current GF through an app, I was astonished to learn that she, too, only dates one person at a time. We got along great and decided to meet again. We eventually got around to talking about bags, and she mentioned that she prefers to take her time before sleeping with possible partners. It didn't bother me at all. Anyway, we met twice a week on average. We must have subbed together for the first time approximately 2 months ago, and we discovered that not only do we have an incredible emotional connection, but our physical connection is also fantastic, possibly due to the emotional connection. We've been dating for 6 months. And, to be honest, it's been fantastic. Aside from this difficulty, we get along like a house on fire. Our political and social future goals are practically identical, and our compatibility is off the charts. Anyways, now, regarding the one issue last week, when I came to replace, I brought a change of clothes with me and was given a shelf in her cabinet. When I went to put my things in there, I discovered an old novel with the name Aaron fake name sign in the first. So, naturally, I asked her about the novel, and she was astonished. But to her credit, she informed me it belonged to her, to Luby. Okay. Hurtful. But everyone has a past, and I noticed the date below her name, which didn't make sense because the date was when she and I had already been dating for more than a month. But perhaps she borrowed it from him. So I inquired about the date, and she replied, yes, he brought the book. To say I was stunned the last time he arrived here would be an understatement. I asked her again, well, why would your FWB come with his book here after we were dating? And how much time did he spend here that he left the book? We both knew at that point that the explanation was illogical. I confronted her about your claim that you only date one person at a time. She answered, well, he was an FWB, and I asked, did she sleep with him after we slept together? She stated she hadn't spoken to him in the 2 weeks before we slept. But, despite the fact that the intention was for me to spend the weekend there, I left following this chat. We've had a few irregular discussions since then, but we haven't discussed the elephant in the room. We decided to have a face-to-face update here, so I called her and informed her it wasn't going to work. Our morals are sound. I read a number of comments, some of which suggested she was cheating a lot, and some of which indicated she wasn't cheating at all. Some people have remarked that my method of dating one person at a time is incorrect. Some have accused me of being jealous and insecure, among other things, but this isn't a court of law and a case doesn't have to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Here I am, demised Diamond, and she considers his actions to be a game. We'll never be able to work out together. And, while it stinks, because we had such a fantastic connection, I think it's better than she can find someone with whom she feels protected. And perhaps, I'll be able to find someone with whom I feel safe. So, thank you very much. It was a very helpful narrative in terms of how to bring up my issues. Do you and your partner consider masturbation to be impolite? My 22-year-old girlfriend and her 29-year-old boyfriend have been dating for just over 3 years. We disagree on a few points, such as what constitutes respect and TMI, but one of those points has been mastered. It's a healthy thing to do every now and then, in my opinion. And it's a stress release after a full-time class load and working full-time. He disagrees and feels it's rude and makes him feel inadequate, which isn't the case. We have a fantastic sex life. There are just days when I'm stressed out or have pulled all-nighters and need to take a nap in the afternoon. It works well as a stress reliever. I'd often wondered how he knew when I was around. But I would have done it every day if I could. He always stated he knew such things today as he was getting ready for class. I noticed one of our house cameras facing the bed in the bedroom, set back on a lower shelf on my desk. It's never been there before because the camera used to be in the bedroom window, facing out to keep an eye on the dogs when they were on the patio and to provide security if anyone tried to break in. I was cleaning the area about a week ago when the camera dropped off the window, and I just set it back up, not realizing it was fully unplugged from the cord until I checked the app, and I never fixed it. After seeing it, I checked out the app today, and the camera is turned on and pointed in the right direction. I joked with him saying, say anything you want to tell me about the bedroom camera. He stated that it is not plugged in. As a result, I said, MHMM legislation. And he stated that he had not touched the camera. Then I explained that I hadn't touched or set up the camera since it fell with the dogs. And he texted back, and I picked it up at that point, saying that I wasn't really bothered about it until he lied. I know there's a privacy issue here, and I'd like to talk about how I know he's lying without saying anything. I went on the feedback loop since I know he is, and it was put up Wednesday this week. When he arrived home early from work before me, I felt like he did it to test whether I was mastered. Because it's almost an everyday occurrence. If I did it, I'm not sure if he's serious. When he asks, I feel so dirty at this point in the fight, because that stuff is private. I don't do it all the time, and it doesn't interfere with our sex. I simply feel strange having that aspect of my life scrutinized or laughed about, but when we discuss masturbation, he gets offended. And I also know that telling him I know he's lying will irritate him. It's not like I told him or even brought it up. He mentions that and then says, I know you did it. Even if I hadn't, I just want to have a civil discussion on a sensitive subject. We don't agree on anything. Have you discussed this with your partner? How do you feel about it? Do you consider this to be disrespect? Ayler, TD. I believe my boyfriend turned one of our home security cameras inside our bedroom to check if I masturbated. At first, I thought it was amusing until he lied about doing it. How can I approach him about this? And what are your thoughts on your partner masturbating in a love story? 3. Attempting to persuade lover and 47 that I afforded 5 require security in the future cultural differences. I'm obviously so close to the scenario that I'm having difficulty seeing the situation objectively. Any outside comments would be greatly welcomed. I'll try to be as brief as possible, and please accept my apologies. My boyfriend and I have been dating for 7 years and are planning to marry next year. I'm British, and he's Italian. We dwell in his Italian village. He is employed. Full-time employment in a steady long-term position. Here, I look after vacation homes and foreigners' properties. And my work is inconsistent, especially with, I could work every day for weeks, or I could not work at all for a month. I make financial contributions wherever possible and do everything at home. He was still living at his family's house when we grew serious. So, when we chose to live together, he bought a house rather than renting. Because he is the only one identified on the mortgage, the house is solely in his name. I have no objections to that at all. In Italy, when a couple marries, they must select what form of legal is appropriate. There are 2 options: everything is shared or everything is independent family property, and so on. Most couples now select separate beds, and we shall do the same. Also, I have no objections to this, but it means that the house where we reside will never be mine, even in part, if he dies. Although I will have the right to live here without interruption for a set period of time, he has always promised me that his brother/family will never kick me out and that he will ask them to allow me to live in the house for as long as I like. This will not be legally binding, and I will be relying on goodwill. He has also claimed that he would never leave the house to me because doing so would be taking it away from his brother. This is where we begin to disagree slightly, that I am slightly offended that he appears to be more concerned about his brother's security than mine, and where cultural differences come into play. Inheritance laws differ from those in the United Kingdom in that there are set rights of inheritance to children, family members, and wills are not usually used. My boyfriend and his brother will inherit a number of properties in the form of plots of land. My difficulty today is that I have a few €1,000 and would like to do something with it to at least assure that I have a roof over my head no matter what happens in the future. There are a few tiny properties for sale near us that we might perhaps purchase for roughly €15,000. I don't have enough money to buy it entirely, but I could chip in at least $5,000. My lover would have to assist with the remainder until I could repay him. And this modest house would be included in both names. And I would suggest that the house be left totally to me in the case of my boyfriend's staff, so that his brother can do whatever he wants with the house, which currently has both long-term and vacation rental potential. And it only requires minor repairs. Doing boyfriend is adamantly opposed to the house purchase, considering it to be a waste of money and that his family would never ask me to leave. His unwillingness to talk about death and the future isn't helping matters. And I'm a little concerned about my prospects for the future here. Outside perspectives are greatly valued. TDLR want to buy a little house to safeguard my future security boyfriend from the